probably wouldn't work. Don't get my mic to the right. Oh yeah, wait a minute. I know what I remember what settings are. Input device. Oh, it might be right this time actually. Let me see. Yeah, it is, actually. Hello everyone, I'm here to talk about how we're all doomed. And we've got the fall of the West, and um, I'm just going to look at some news things in Britain today and the West. Sadly, Steve Wright, the DJ, died today. Seems to have been suddenly because he was expecting to do his show on Sunday. So that's a shame. He really was. I mean, I don't know about the music, but as a DJ, he was a great entertainer, with his characters, Mr. Angry and Gervais and Dave Doubledecks, all that. So, yeah, I'm looking at the fall of the West today. I see that yesterday or the day before, two newcomers came via a school bus that came over from France. It was over there on holiday. It came over Southampton. They were in the luggage. Someone asked them, "Do you speak English or French?" And they said French. So I don't know what's going on there. Even the French speakers to me. I mean, they were probably French speaking from not from France, but even for them, Britain seems to be where they want to come. They urinated over the bags, but apparently the parents and the teachers and that were all delighted to see them. Um, let's see some other news stories. I remember a woman PC get shot years ago, 20, 30 years ago or something. Sharon Beshanevsky. It was a big thing at the time. What I didn't know was the mastermind, who's 75 now, has fled the UK, was on the run for 15 years, and it looks like he's fled from Bradford to Pakistan, Yeah, and there's that thing that Labour in Rochdale, they had their candidate all set up for the Rochdale by-election, and he was a man who I think the locals would like, although he was getting hassled everywhere because he's part of Labour and they feel strongly about Palestine. I've mentioned this before. I think two ways you could feel strongly about Palestine is one that you just feel sorry for the Palestinians, and that's how I feel really. But another way is if you just see it as a sort of an ego thing, and another way of thinking the West. That's another way of viewing it, and it's up to each person to decide if those two things are sort of separate, and maybe that's the way a lot who have come to the West actually view it, an ego thing. I suppose the question to ask them would be, would you like them to get the 1967 borders, which means they've lost 78% of their country, but it's still quite big, or do you want them to fight to the death? And I think a lot of people who, if it's an ego thing, might want them to fight to the death, That's just something to think about. But anyway, that Rochdale, he said some conspiracy theory thing. I mean, with sympathy for the Palestinians, I don't think you can go wrong, really. But he had some sort of conspiracy that was probably a bit crazy, and a bit daft to say. And of course, at the root of what he was saying the West were to blame, or parts of the West, or so-called West. It wasn't the people themselves or whatever, So, and of course, he's happy to live here. He doesn't want to live in any beautiful warm country that he's associated with or whatever. It's important for him to be British and that. Yeah. Anyway, his conspiracy thing is get Keir's acted on it. Although it turns out that maybe Angela Rayner and that were at that meeting or whatever, I don't know. But it is a whole daft thing anyway. I mean, Labour are a Trojan party and it's all going to collapse on them anyway. And it might even happen in Rochdale because George Galloway's standing there. I see him as a useful idiot for the people of his. He's a useful idiot. There's going to come a day where these people are going to abandon George and they might even give him not be nice to him once they get their act together and start have a party that shows what they're about. Really, need a new party. It looks as if a new party may form in Britain soon because there was a new website that came online about a week or two ago, and it's saying we need to. It's supposed to be about Palestine, but it's about harnessing that vote of people who feel that they've got a direct connection with them, even though they're not from that area. It's for people of that group, which George Galloway won't be allowed to be part of, I would guess. So someday George is going to be ostracised by things. I think even when he was in East London, was he an MP there or something? He started having problems with those he was closest to that got him elected there because they were starting to have demands or something, and George didn't want to do them or something. So I think he's coming here because he feels that he's probably going to win, which I think is true. Although I hear now that there's an independent who I think a big group of Rochdale people are going to support purely on one thing that George can't replicate. So they might go for him. But now I'm wondering whether this guy who's standing for Labour, he's got to still stand for Labour, even though Labour aren't supporting him. He won't become a Labour MP, he'll become an independent MP. I get the feeling because the Rochdale people can identify with him now. He's not part of Labour, and for one other reason, that they might go for him. He'll become an independent. He can speak his views. He might keep a few close to, not for consumption of the current majority of Brits, but it will be going that way. And because the majority of British at the moment aren't going to be the majority for very much longer. We're going to go the way of Leicester and London and Manchester. But yeah, I think he might get elected. So that would be George Galloway. All his current people will abandon him for the new independent. So that means there's two independents, both who a lot of Rochdale people will be able to identify with in a way George can't. So I think George might lose out now. And these two independent candidates, maybe one of them will pull out so that the other one can win. And then they can represent the views of the big Rochdale group who are going to become the majority in Rochdale for certain, and if they're not already, because they've got certain attitudes and things that they want for Britain to have. So that's about Rochdale. So that's good. And if this new website starts a new party, I'm all for that because you need to let the good British people know how it's going to go with the country, because I think we're going to have two types of party. We're going to have one that's interested in a a law, a law that they're interested in the aspects of from the beautiful warm countries that follow these. They're interested in that, although they don't want to go there or whatever, except on holidays, many holidays. And then we're going to have another party where it matters about lives. That's the two big parties we're going to have, and then we're going to have a traditional folks party that's going to be like an Ulster, how they've got parties as a sort of a party that the people will flee to from the Tories and Labour and Lib Dem Greens, especially the women, are going to flee to once they see how Britain's going to go. So I'm glad that these sort of things, well, that it's not Labour that's being represented there, because I want these people to show the way that they want to be, especially political terms, because I think two things that are important at the moment are benefits and immigration to some. And so Labour are the obvious party for that. While Britain is a very liberal place where females can wear bikinis if they want and stuff, like to express themselves. But long term, it seems that these people are naive and they allow the country to be changed. I don't think they realise that they're going to be their attitudes are going to be a minority attitude, so we'll see how that goes. Just looking at some other stories in the Daily Mail. Yeah, so there was this three women were convicted of offences at one of these Palestine marches where they were wearing paraglider things on their jackets and that. Two of them seem to have names that are from one continent, and then the other one, it seems that she's actually from Gaza. So this is the way Britain's going, really. And so we've got this Gaza lady, and she says apparently she's been given citizenship already. The government and Home Office have sent her a welcome letter. You're British forever. Bring your relatives and that. And apparently, and then this is how she's rewarding them by getting out in a march like that to be offensive. Really. I don't agree with the idea that these were terror offences. I would call them offences. They were being offensive. So, because some of these terror things, people are getting 25 years for nothing, from what I've seen. So it's all got a bit silly, especially when we're maybe a free speech country. So were they offensive? They definitely were, but I wouldn't call them terrorists just for that. But anything that makes British people realise that we've made a terrible mistake, the worst mistake ever, in that sort of sense, I hope that this is a sort of turning point, but it doesn't look like it the way people are saying they're going to vote Labour, because Labour are like 45% of the polls. I have no idea why they're voting Labour. Yes, this lady is a Palestinian author who grew up in Gaza and was granted asylum in the UK because her family were critical of Hamas. This is what they said during the trial, and yet she was wearing that thing that was from that group, the paraglider thing. So, I mean, I don't believe the stories that they come up with for the Home Office anyway. So, these trials will never really find out anything, and the judge always usually says something silly as well, sympathetic around it. So, I mean, I think it was judged by trial, so they were found guilty. So, yeah, so she's British forever now. Had an emblem that was in favour of the group she said she was critical of when she was over there or whatever, her parents. I guess her parents I heard as well. So, yeah, there wasn't any other country that seemed desirable to her. We don't know how many countries her family might have had on her list. I'm guessing they might all be what are known as Western countries. They're the only ones that they would have considered to move to. Um, yeah, but it's just another example of how we're totally finished. It seems that there's loads of news stories every day now of how, in my opinion, we're totally finished. Um, but all you can do to Agnes and Jerry in your flat and stuff, all I can say is abandon SNP, Labour, Greens, Lib Dems, vote Tory at least, but if not, go even further right, really. I mean, look at France and Germany and Holland, they're so lucky. And it's so annoying, Holland, because I think the Dutch people wanted to vote for Geert, or whatever his name is. He got about 25% of the vote, which was most of a lot of them. But now that he can't get a government to go because centre right are pulling out and stuff, it's 2 months later or something. Now his polling is like 45% or something. So most Dutch people have said are having regrets. They wish they had voted. They wanted to vote for him, but they were too ashamed at the time. And this is a problem. I mean, you've got to either think, are we heading for anarchy, or do you think it needs to be stopped and reassessed? And really, if you think we're heading for anarchy, you can't vote for Labour or SNP or Lib Dem or anything like that, you know. So you've got to vote on one issue. I mean, the paying off tax doesn't matter if you're heading for anarchy. If you think our current trend is towards anarchy, then you need to vote against it as a single issue, you know. You need to use each election a referendum. That includes council elections, and I mean, the problem seems to be that the traditional West are too nice. That's why. I mean, they created beautiful countries like USA and Australia and New Zealand, which people from the other part of the world find very desirable. In fact, so desirable they don't consider countries on their own continents, or they only consider about 20 countries, and they all happen to be the West, really. And so you've got to ask, what reason are they only considering those countries? Like this young lady who's come from Gaza to Britain to become British. There was no other country that she found, probably apart from the West. I mean, she would probably consider USA or Australia, but not. She would consider about three of the continents, or most of it. So, yeah, so that's all I've got to say for today. Goodbye.